there has been a growing tendency within the post-medieval Christian world to look upon creation as the artifact of a maker, who, as it were, has produced it from without. This has provided us with a picture of a God in heaven who, having set the cosmic process in motion, and having left it to run more or less on its own and according to its own laws, now interferes directly on but rare occasions, and then only in the form of special and abnormal acts operated upon the world from without. The result is that the relation between God and creation tends to be seen predominantly as one of cause and effect. God is a world cause, a supreme or first cause or principle of being, and the world and its laws are what he has produced. On this account, it may be possible to speak of some analogy between God and creation. It may be possible to say that creation is a moving image of eternity, a kind of projection, in corruptible terms, of its unmoved perfection, or even that signs and indications of God may be discerned in visible phenomena. But what is difficult to envisage in this perspective is that the idea that creation actually participates in the divine, as it is an actual mode of existence, or embodiment of the living, ever-present God. I would call this idea that creation is the embodiment of the divine, with its writer, that all nature has therefore an intrinsic sacred character, the sacramental idea of creation. This would appear appropriate because what is implied in this idea is that the Christian understanding of sacrament, which is usually applied only to the specific rites that go by the name of sacraments in the institutional church, is applied to the realm of nature as a whole. A sacrament, it must be remembered, demands a material expression. In fact, the archetype of all sacramental activity is the incarnation of Christ himself. In the incarnation, the Logos becomes flesh. There is an intimate meeting, an inextricable intertwining of the spiritual and the material. And we have already noted that what is defended or affirmed in the great Christological discussions which resulted in the pronouncements of Nicaea and Chalcedon is that the two natures of Christ, the divine and the human, the uncreated and the created, are not merely juxtaposed in the person of Christ. There is not simply an assumption by the divine of the human. These ways of regarding the mystery of the two natures in Christ are felt to be inadequate and to fail to do justice to its reality. What is defended or affirmed is the actual union of the two natures. A union, quote, without confusion, without change, without division, without separation, as the formula of the Council of Chalcedon puts it. In other words, it is maintained that however vast and fundamental the difference between the uncreated and the created may appear, there is ultimately no radical dichotomy between them. If God is God, and if God is manifest in Christ, then creation must be capable of becoming one with the uncreated, and it must be possible to transcend the apparent ontological gap between them. This is why the Greek fathers speak of the Eucharist, which is the image of the Incarnation. And it must be remembered that for the Greek fathers, the only difference between image and archetype is that the image as such is not the archetype as such. They insist that the material sign of the sacrament is not simply something to which the Spirit is attached, as if the Spirit were an extraneous element added to the matter, or one that transubstantiates the matter through his presence. On the contrary, they insist that there is a total integration of the material and the spiritual, so that the elements of bread and wine are an actual mode of existence of the divine, and there is complete union between them. In other words, the sacrament presupposes an actual incarnation of divine power and life, and what is communicated to man in the sacrament is this divine power and life. As St. Cyril of Alexandria puts it, For the Son is in us, on the one hand, bodily as man, united and mixed by means of the Eucharist, mystical blessing, and also spiritually as God, by the energy and grace of his own Spirit, renewing the Spirit that is in us for the renewer of life and making us participants in his divinity. It is now possible to see the consequence of applying the Christian understanding of the sacrament to the realm of nature as a whole. It means that nature is regarded not as something upon which God acts from without. It is regarded as something through which God expresses himself from within. Nature, or creation, the terms are interchangeable in this context, is perceived as a self-expression of the divine, and the divine is totally present within it. It is not a case of complete absorption of the one in the other, or of subservience of the one side and detachment on the other. Moreover, the created depends for its existence on the uncreated, while the uncreated does not depend in the least for its existence on the created. But each finds its own identity in the other, and each at the same time keeps its own identity in the other. In creating what is created, it is himself that God creates in another mode. In creation, he becomes his own image in such a way that he enters into it from within. He is its within. Creation is the realm in which God's dynamic, pulsating energies are made manifest. Its apparent stability is simply the flux of these energies, its solidity, the result of their ceaseless flow. In this respect, the difference between the activity of the Spirit in nature and the activity of the Spirit outside of nature is one of degree only, not of kind. It is a difference of the mode in which the Spirit operates, while the energies through which he operates remain always divine and uncreated. Like the Eucharist, nature is a revelation not merely of the truth about God, but of God himself. The created world is God's sacrament of himself to himself in his creatures. It is the means whereby he is what he is. Were there no creation, then God would be other than he is. And if creation were not sacramental, then God will not be its creator, and there will be no question of a sacrament anywhere. If God is not present in a grain of sand, then he is not present in heaven either.